first meeting of the Gay Liberation Front back in 1970. Yeah, it does age me, I just can't help it, that's when it was. Along with 19 other people, and the rest were all men. I had the sense of entering completely new territory. We were coming out of the shadows, and soon we were coming out into the streets. In November that year, I told the Times reporter on our first demonstration, it is important to know, I was only 19, right? Okay. It's important to know that we are not ashamed to be homosexual. Actually, I said a whole lot of other crap, but that's the only thing. Much has been achieved in the decades since then. But now, incredibly, we find ourselves in a situation in which we have to say those same things and stand up to those same rights all over again in a climate that is actually worse than in the 1970s. 3 months ago, we were still trying to engage Stonewall in dialogue. In fact, we are still trying. But it gradually became clear that Stonewall would not listen. With a heavy heart, but with absolute determination, Kate and I decided that a new organisation was essential, and that we would create it. Just to name a few of the concerns that are central to us. The replacement of the concept of biological sex, everybody knows what that is, by the nebulous notion of gender or gender identity that no one is ever able to define. Who suffers most from this linguistic trick here? Women and girls in general, and lesbians in particular. Lesbians no longer have any places to call their own. On lesbian dating sites, some 40% of those who sign up are people with male bodies. This puts tremendous pressure on young lesbians in particular and adds to their sense of isolation. We read wistful notes from young women who have been reading the history, and they hear of vibrant lesbian culture that existed in the 1970s and the 1980s and that has now been lost. Within the so-called LGBT community, or the LGBTQI+ community, lesbians who dare to stand up for their sexual orientation, same sex, not same gender, are jeered at and hounded out at pride events with the full approval of Stonewall. And the almost 4,000% increase in the number of teenage girls IDing as trans points to a disturbing social phenomenon. At the same time, we're seeing a wave of detransitioners, mostly women in their 20s, who now say they were mistaken and had been grappling with other problems. In most cases, those problems had to do with their lesbianism. So it may be noted that when they realise that they were mistaken, UK law currently makes it impossible for these detransitioners to reclaim their birth sex. The decision to transition commits to a lifetime as the opposite sex. They are legally stuck on the other side. The use of puberty blockers is essentially a large-scale medical experiment on children. There are real safeguarding issues here. The government has commissioned a study into the reasons underlying this huge increase. But who is conducting this study? What are its terms of reference? We'd love to know. Apparently, and Kate's going to be saying more about this later, it is not in the public interest for us to know. This government secrecy goes hand in hand with the climate of fear and the blocking of all debate. Kathleen Stock's seminar on the subject of, make it up, academic freedom has been cancelled in a wonderful stroke of irony following threats from trans activists. The feminist who recently contacted Louis Theroux to ask him to investigate the situation that's arisen around the conflict between trans rights and women's rights has now been banned from Twitter. And Dr. Andrew Thorne, whose professional concerns include a particular focus on the safeguarding of children, has been reported to his professional body for questioning policy decisions in this area. A suffocating climate of fear has been created. We hear every day whispers of politicians, scientists, professionals in all walks of life who share our concerns but dare not speak out. And I have had to reassure a great many people who are attending this event today that no one in the audience will be photographed or filmed. People are at risk of losing their jobs. This fear and secrecy, this refusal to allow debate, is accompanied by the most large-scale misogyny that I have seen in my lifetime. It's quite true that trans people are sometimes subjected to physical violence. Like the attacks committed on women, on an even larger scale, that violence is disgusting and we condemn it utterly. But those attacks are almost invariably carried out by men. And yet the aggression of the most vocal trans activists is directed almost exclusively at women, especially feminist theorists. Women being blamed for male violence, it's a familiar theme. The thug who attacks a trans woman has presumably been reading too much of Kathleen Stock's philosophy. Something has gone seriously wrong, and it has gone wrong on an international scale. In Queensland, Australia, there are plans to criminalise doctors who refuse to prescribe puberty blockers because it's harmful in their medical judgment to do so. In Canada, the notorious predator Yaniv, who's now charged with possession of offensive weapons, may go to jail, a woman's jail, under Canadian law, which has fully embraced self-ID. In the UK, a rape victim can be required by a judge to call the rapist she, if that's how the person now identifies. And next week, we hope to hear the ruling in the Fair Cop judicial review, which will be crucial for the right of free speech and the application in the UK of the law rather than the law as misrepresented by Stonewall. And where do mainstream LGBT organisations stand on the erosion of women's rights, on the misogynist attacks on feminists, on the no platforming of people with dissenting views, and on the vilification of lesbians, including the disgusting charges of genital fetish and what have you? There's no condemnation of any of these abuses from these groups, some of which receive a great deal of government funding. In the public mind, LGBT is one undifferentiated body of opinion. Insofar as people have heard of the dogma surrounding gender identity, they assume all gays and lesbians are on board with it. Well, we are not. Those are some of the reasons why we had to create the LGB Alliance, and that's why we've been flooded with requests from all over the world. Oh, are you going to set up in Australia? New Zealand, Canada? A fledgling group is already forming now in the United States, based on our model of respectful dialogue. We are leading this drive to raise public awareness. We will support these groups in other countries, and it is indeed our support for the women, girls and LGBT people of Scotland that has brought us here today. We will make our voices heard. It's likely to be a long struggle, but we're confident that once we have managed to break through the wall of silence and reach the general public, we will prevail. We have to. There is too much at stake. In conclusion, I want to add a few words about our team. We've only known each other for a few months. We all come from very different walks of life, and because of the speed with which our movement has taken off, we've had to become a cohesive team very quickly. And we've done so. And I'm incredibly proud to be part of the LGB Alliance and this amazing team. We soon found dozens of other people who were eager to help us, and I'm very grateful to them. We are very grateful to all of them. I do want to single out one person, though, for a bit of applause. Kate, stand up. Yeah, stand up. would not be here today, and I don't know if the LGB Alliance would exist at all without her. Thank you.
Yeah.